So today is 177th day of war. The Medicenter of Ukraine is working. My name is Vasil Samokhvalov, and we're about to begin our talk with Oleksandr Merezhko, chair of the Foreign Policy of Interparliamentary Cooperation Committee of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine. Dear Oleksandr, hello to you. Hello to you, dear colleagues. I'm glad to see you. Dear Oleksandr, we will be talking about Lviv and yesterday's meeting in Lviv, where besides Volodymyr Zelensky, there were António Guterres, the chief of UN, and Recep Erdoğan, the president of Turkey. Before that, there were lots of insights, broadcasts, some fantastic, some sensational, but later on there were some statements that were more down to earth. Please tell us, what do you think are the main conclusions? Well, first of all, for me, the indicator is that this meeting happened. This meeting of this very high level that is extremely important. And these are the contacts that we have with Turkey. As you know, Turkey is our strategical partner, and I would say that not only formally, but as a matter of fact, this is a reliable strategic partner, and we are very grateful to Turkey, and especially to Turkey President Recep Erdoğan for them playing an important constructive role within the process of, let's put it this way, when it comes to the wheat and taking the wheat away from Ukraine to other regions. And in some senses, I can say that Ukraine and Turkey together has done their input, an important input into global food safety in order to save from starvation the whole regions of Ukraine. This is extremely important. May I ask you to translate from diplomatic language to down-to-earth language? If some people say that Turkey is on the Ukrainian side, what does it mean in reality? Well, in reality, it means that exactly what was said. Here, the example of diplomacy, when completely what is said is what is meant. And in fact, Turkey has proved by its statement, by its actions, including by its help within such platforms as UN and General UN Assembly, in favor, in support to Ukraine against Russian aggression. All in all, yes, both Turkey government and Turkey people support Ukraine. And you know, the only word Bayraktar means a lot for all of us to understand and to have very warm associations. So some people were saying that the proposal about Volodymyr Zelensky meeting with the Russian Federation president will be brought to this meeting, but there were no such a proposal here, or at least it was not spoken about. How do you think? How possible are the perspectives of negotiations between Ukraine and occupants in light of events in the future? Well, the possibility of these negotiations directly between our president and I'm trying to find a proper word, you know, believe in democratic state and democratic states consider Putin as a military criminal, but the possibility and the chances of these are decided on the battlefield. This all depends on the situation on the battlefield. What I can see, this is my personal opinion, based on the forces of the nation, I see that Russia is trying to starting to find maybe informally, but some kind of ways out in order to conduct the negotiations with Western countries and even more, there is a chance with Ukraine. And the situation for Russia is getting worse and worse, both on the battlefield, on the front line, and in economical sector. Sanctions are being reinforced. They are already working. And what is going on exactly what we were expecting. For him and for Russia, and we were trying to propose something. But you can see that Russia has already refused from those ultimatums and those absurd statements that Russia has done at the very beginning. So the understanding of inevitable ending is coming, and this is something that reinforces the motivation of Putin for the beginning of any negotiations. So no less important are the points at which António Guterres made a pause and emphasized them. Since I understand that the situation is about the Zaporizhia electric power station, this is a situation where our military prisoners of war are kept. And what can you tell us about UN attention and this situation? Because we know that the schedule of general chair of UN is made for years ahead, and he made a huge promise for us to come to Ukraine. Well, in accordance to the statute of UN, the general chair of UN is having some um, things to do. What one of them is the good good things he can do. One of them is to be a mediator between the sides that are doing negotiations. When it comes to these three questions that you asked, the most dangerous one is the situation around Zaporizhia power plant, and this, is extremely dangerous since Russia recently has done a statement in which Russia is trying to accuse Ukraine. Because we all know before doing any provocations, Russia is trying to accuse the victim of this provocation. And this is quite a typical behavior, being extremely arrogant. So most attention to the world is taken to the idea that Russia can do some provocations with power plant and put the whole Europe to the line of nuclear catastrophe. This is extremely dangerous, and we understand that the chair of UN is supposed to react to this and to prevent it and to do anything possible he can in order to prevent this. So, and I'm talking about the safety of the whole world. What can change there after the influence of UN? How important and powerful is this organization? Where does its influence begin and end? Well, I would say that there are formal influence, and I'm talking about, for example, the United Nations Safety Council. We have, for example, 25th Statute of UN. According to these, the UN resolutions are necessary for implementing. That all boils down to keeping the world safety. But because of the position of Russia, we all know the practical activity of the Council of Safety when it comes to this question and preventing the aggression. It doesn't work. Unfortunately, from point of view of safety, the activity of Safety Council of UN is blocked by Russia. However, one has to keep in mind that UN has more, let's put it this way, soft political influence, and its activity cannot be ignored, including by Russia. So UN here has some authority, as well as the chair of UN. His statement, his actions have influence. With this influence, every country is supposed to consult and not to ignore. In such a way, UN can influence, but I would say that this is kind of not very decisive, but still efficient influence. So the last question will be about this very influence. Why it's clear that besides all this, we have the diplomatic front of counteraction to Russia and yesterday's meeting in Lviv. How can this influence the diplomatic front in the nearest future? Are there any broadcasts? What can be there at the diplomacy fronts in Ukraine and in the world? Well, right now we have two main fronts. First of all, is the fight against Russian aggression that has come to military, and the second one is diplomatic front. I would say This is the second in the line of importance fronts. When it comes to these diplomatic fronts, the most important task is to mobilize all the countries to fight against Russian aggression. It is extremely important for us to stop this aggression, to stop the Russian military machine, and this can be done within the reinforcing of sanctions. Right now, our diplomacy representatives are working hard on accepting Russia by many countries as the official criminal and terrorist criminal, and reinforce other countries to provide us with heavy weaponry systems. Besides that, there is work being done on the international platforms. The General Assembly of UN in October is about to start. There is also an extremely front of work. This is a tribune from which our diplomacy is talking, and our voice can be heard all over the world. This is also extremely important. Well, thank you so much. Oleksandr Merezhko was with us, who made heads and tails regarding the yesterday's meeting in Lviv. I would also like to recall that Oleksandr Merezhko, he is the chair of the Foreign Policy and Interparliamentary Cooperation Committee of Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine. Have a good day, and we are continuing to work.